Imagine stumbling upon a quiet village where everyone knows your name, but one chilling secret threatens to unravel it all. A single betrayal could destroy trust forever. Welcome to Miss Marple's riddle of the Village Betrayal, where every clue counts. Chapter 1. The Village That Whispered Secrets. Picture a cozy English village. Netherby, where ivy clings to stone cottages and the church bell chimes every hour. It's the kind of place where neighbors wave over picket fences and the local pub is alive with laughter. But beneath this idyllic surface, something's brewing. Miss Jane Marple, our sharp-eyed sleuth, arrives in Netherby for a quiet visit, only to sense a ripple of unease. Someone's hiding something, and it's not just gossip about who baked the best scones. This chapter sets the stage for a mystery that'll keep you guessing. Why does a peaceful village feel so heavy with secrets? Let's dive into Netherby. Miss Marple, with her knitting needles and keen intuition, steps off the train on a crisp autumn morning. She's visiting her old friend, Mrs. Clara Henshaw, who runs the village post office. Clara's letters hinted at trouble, nothing specific, just a vague worry about changes in the village. As Miss Marple strolls down the cobbled lane, she notices small things: a shopkeeper's nervous glance, a hushed conversation that stops when she passes, and a missing poster for the annual harvest fair. These aren't random, they're clues. In mysteries, the smallest details matter. For example, a dropped glove or a misaddressed letter can unravel a lie. Miss Marple knows this, and she's already piecing things together. The village square is bustling, but not with its usual cheer. There's tension in the air, like a storm waiting to break. At the pub, the rusty anchor, Miss Marple overhears snippets of talk about a betrayal. No one says what it is, but names pop up. Tom, the blacksmith, young Lily, who works at the bakery, and Mr. Grayson, the wealthy landowner. Are they victims or culprits? Miss Marple doesn't jump to conclusions. She observes. For instance, she notices Tom's hammer strikes are slower today, like he's distracted. Lily avoids eye contact when serving tea, and Grayson's manor gates, usually open, are locked tight. These are practical signs of unease you can spot in any tense situation: body language, changes in routine, or guarded words. To keep you hooked, let's think like Miss Marple. If you were in Netherby, what would you notice? Maybe a neighbor who stops inviting you over, or a friend who dodges questions. That's how betrayal starts: small cracks in trust. Miss Marple's strength is her patience. She doesn't rush. She listens, watches, and knits. By the end of her first day, she's already got a mental list of questions. Why is Clara so jumpy? What's behind Grayson's locked gates? And why does the village feel like it's holding its breath? These questions are our map for the mystery. Ahead, we've set the scene in Netherby, where secrets lurk behind every smile. Miss Marple's just begun her quiet investigation, and the village is already whispering clues. Next time, we'll dig into the first real hint: a cryptic letter. That could change everything. Stick around to unravel this riddle with us. Chapter 2. The cryptic letter. Netherby's charm hides a growing unease, and Miss Marple's sharp eyes have already caught the village's subtle tells. Now, a single piece of paper is about to deepen the mystery. In this chapter, we uncover a cryptic letter that lands in Miss Marple's hands, hinting at a betrayal that could tear Netherby apart. What does it say? Who sent it? And why is it so hard to decode? Let's step into Miss Marple's world as she begins to unravel the threads of this village riddle. It's Miss Marple's second day in Netherby, and she's sipping tea with Clara Henshaw in the cozy post office backroom. The air smells of ink and old paper, but Clara's hands tremble as she sorts mail. Miss Marple, ever observant, notices a letter tucked under a stack, addressed to no one, just a blank envelope with a wax seal. Clara hesitates, but hands it. Over when Miss Marple raises an eyebrow. The seal, stamped with a rose, feels oddly formal for a small village. Inside, the letter is short but strange. The heart of Netherby bleeds. Trust no shadow, for it moves before the light. No signature, no names, just those cryptic words in neat, slanted handwriting. Miss Marple's mind sparks this isn't a prank. It's a warning. Why does this letter matter? In mysteries, letters like this are never random. They're like a puzzle piece that doesn't yet fit. Miss Marple tucks it into her handbag, but not before noting the paper's quality expensive, not the kind you'd find at the village shop. She asks Clara about the rose seal. Clara's face pales. She's seen it before, years ago, on letters tied to an old scandal about stolen land deeds. But she clams up, saying it's best forgotten. Miss Marple doesn't push it instead. She thinks about human nature. People hide things when they're scared or ashamed. For example, you might dodge a question about a mistake at work or avoid someone who knows too much. That's what Clara's doing. And it's a clue in itself. Miss Marple takes a walk to clear her head, heading toward the village green. She passes the bakery where Lily's sweeping the doorstep, her eyes darting nervously. Miss Marple smiles and asks about the harvest fair. Lily mumbles something about it being cancelled and hurries inside. Another clue. The fair's cancellation wasn't announced. So why does Lily know? Miss Marple files it away. At the green, she spots Tom the blacksmith talking to a stranger, tall man in a dark coat who slips away when she approaches. Tom's gruff, saying it was just a customer, but his hands are clenched. Miss Marple's seen this before. People fidget when they're lying. It's a practical tip. Watch for small tics, like avoiding eye contact or shifting feet, to spot unease. Back at Clara's, Miss Marple studies the letter again. The words trust, no shadow stick with her. Shadows move before light does. It means someone's acting before their motives are clear. Or is it about betrayal happening in plain sight? She recalls a case from St. Mary Mead, where a vague note led to a stolen will. The key was tracing the paper's source. Here, the rose seal is her lead. She visits the village shop, casually asking about fancy stationery. The shopkeeper, Mrs. Pike, says only Mr. Grayson's manor orders such paper, but he hasn't in years. Grayson again his locked gates, and now this paper. Miss Marple's not ready to confront him, but her mental map is growing. To think like Miss Marple, consider how you'd approach a mystery in your own life. Maybe a friend's acting odd, dropping vague hints about trouble. You'd notice their tone, their hesitations, just like Miss Marple does. She's building a picture of Netherby's secrets, piece by piece. The letter's a warning, but it's also a challenge. Whoever wrote it wants someone to notice. Is it a cry for help or a taunt? Miss Marple doesn't know yet, but she's sure of one thing. The answer lies in the village's daily rhythms, in the small moments others overlook. We've now got a cryptic letter stirring up questions in Netherby. Miss Marple's starting to connect dots, but the village is still hiding its truth. Next, we'll follow her to a tense village meeting where tempers flare and secrets start to slip. Keep watching to see how the riddle deepens. Chapter 3. The village meeting unravels. The cryptic letter has set Miss Marple's mind worry. Its mysterious words echoing like a distant warning bell in Netherby's quiet streets. Now, the village is about to gather for a meeting, and the air is thick with tension. In this chapter, we dive into a heated village hall gathering where whispered suspicions bubble to the surface. Tempers flare, and Miss Marple spots cracks in Netherby's facade. What secrets will slip out when the villagers are pushed to confront their fears? Let's step into the hall and watch Miss Marple work her magic, picking up clues in the chaos. It's early evening and the village hall is packed. The wooden beams creak under the weight of old banners, and the smell of polished oak mixes with brewing tea. Miss Marple sits near the back, her knitting needles clicking softly, her eyes scanning the crowd. The meeting was called to discuss the Harvest Fair's sudden cancellation, but it's clear from the start that something deeper is at play. The vicar, Mr. Harrow, stands at the front, trying to keep order, but his voice wavers. He mentions unfortunate circumstances behind the fair's end, dodging details. Miss Marple notes his unease. His hands grip the podium too tightly, a classic sign of someone hiding something. In any tense situation, like a family argument or a workplace dispute, watch for these physical tells: a clenched jaw, a forced smile, or fidgety fingers. They betray what words won't. The crowd is restless. Tom, the blacksmith, his apron still dusted with soot, demands to know why the fair was scrapped. It's tradition, he booms, his voice carrying a raw edge. Lily, the baker's assistant, sits in a corner, her head down, twisting a handkerchief. Mrs. Pike, the shopkeeper, snaps that some people know more than they're saying, her eyes darting toward Mr. Grayson's empty chair. Grayson, the landowner, isn't her bold absence for a man who owns half the village. Miss Marple's mind ticks. Absence can be as telling as presence. Think of someone skipping a key, meeting at work, or a friend dodging a group chat. It's not always guilt, but it's always a clue. Then Clara Henshaw stands, her voice shaky but firm. She says the fair was cancelled because of threats to the village. Gasps ripple through the room. She doesn't elaborate, but Miss Marple catches her glance at Lily, who flinches. Threats, that word hangs heavy, tying back to the cryptic letters, warning about a bleeding heart and moving shadows. Miss Marple's seen this before. Vague accusations spark fear, and fear makes people talk. In a mystery, you don't need all the answers at once. You need just enough to keep pulling the thread. For example, in a real-life scenario, if a co-worker hints at trouble without specifics, you'd ask gentle questions or watch their reactions. Miss Marple does both, silently cataloguing every word and gesture. The meeting spirals. Tom accuses the vicar of hiding something, pointing out that church funds were meant for the fair. Mr. Harrow stammers, saying the money's tied up. Mrs. Pike jumps in, hinting at debts owed to Grayson. The room buzzes with murmurs, some defend Grayson, others mutter about his influence. Miss Marple notices Lily slip out the back door, her face pale. Why leave now? Miss Marple doesn't follow yet, but she recalls Lily's nervous behavior at the bakery. Small actions, like leaving early or avoiding questions, often point to bigger secrets. If you were investigating, you'd do the same. Note who avoids the spotlight and when, as the meeting breaks up. Miss Marple lingers, helping stack chairs to overhear stragglers. Two farmers whisper about a deal Grayson made last year, something about land sales that left bad blood. They stop when they see her, but it's enough. Land deals, threats, a cancelled ferret, all connected, and Miss Marple's starting to see the shape of it. She thinks back to a case in St. Mary Mead, where a village fete was sabotaged over a property dispute. The trick was finding the motive: greed, revenge, or fear. Here, the letters Rose Seal and Grayson's name keep circling back. Is he the shadow the letter warned about, or is he a victim too? To channel Miss Marple, imagine you're in a tense situation, a community argument, or a family feud. You'd watch for who speaks too quickly, who stays silent, who points fingers. Miss Marple's strength is her stillness. She lets others reveal themselves. Tonight, she's learned the village is fractured by money, by secrets, by distrust. The letters. Warning feels more real now, but it's still a riddle. Was it sent to expose a betrayal? Chapter 4. Shadows in the churchyard. The village meeting has left Netherby's secrets simmering, with accusations and half-truths swirling like leaves in the autumn wind. Miss Marple's sharp mind is piecing together the cryptic letter, the cancelled fair, and the villagers' uneasy glances. Now, a quiet visit to the churchyard pulls her deeper into the mystery. In this chapter, we follow Miss Marple to St. Anne's Church, where a chance encounter and a hidden discovery shine a light on the betrayal haunting Netherby. What does the church hold, and who's watching from the shadows? Let's walk with Miss Marple as she uncovers a new piece of the puzzle. It's a cool morning, and the mist clings to Netherby's cobblestone paths as Miss Marple heads to St. Anne's Church. The old stone building looms at the edge of the village, its spire piercing the fog. She's not here for Sunday service, set's only Thursday, but to talk to Mr. Harrow, the vicar, whose nervous demeanour at the meeting caught her attention. Churches, Miss Marple knows, are more than places of worship. They're where secrets are confessed, whispered, or buried. As she approaches, the churchyard is quiet, save for the rustle of leaves and the distant clink of a shovel. Someone's digging, a groundskeeper, perhaps. But it's early, and the sound feels out of place. Miss Marple's instincts prickle. In any mystery, odd details, like a sound at the wrong time, can be your first clue. Inside, the church smells of wax and old hymnals. Mr. Harrow is polishing candlesticks at the altar, his movements jerky. Miss Marple greets him warmly, asking about the harvest fair funds he mentioned. He stammers, saying the money was misallocated, but insists it's a simple error. His eyes dart to a side door leading to the vestry. Miss Marple doesn't press. Instead, she chats about village history, easing him into talking. This is a trick you can use to, when someone's guarded, ask about something neutral, like their hometown or a hobby, to loosen their tongue. Harrow lets slip that the church records, kept in the vestry, include old land deeds tied to Grayson's family. Land again, the cryptic letters, Rose Seal flashes in Miss Marple's mind, Grayson's expensive paper, Clara's mention of a scandal. The threads are starting to weave together as Harrow busies himself. Miss Marple slips into the vestry, a small room cluttered with books and papers. She's not snooping well, not exactly, but she's curious. On a desk, she spots a ledger labeled church funds. A quick glance shows entries for the fair, but the numbers don't add up. Large sums marked as transferred with no destination. Miss Marple's seen this before, in a case where a charity's books were cooked to hide theft. Numbers, like people, lie when you know where to look. She also finds a faded photograph tucked in a drawer, a younger Grayson standing with a woman who resembles Lily, the baker's assistant. The rose seal is embossed on the frame. A coincidence? Miss Marple doesn't believe in those. In your own life, think of how small connections, shared contact, An old photo can hint at bigger stories. Outside, the digging sound stops. Miss Marple steps into the churchyard and sees Lily, of all people, near a fresh patch of earth by an old yew tree. She's not digging, but brushing dirt off her hands, her face flushed. When she spots Miss Marple, she freezes, then mumbles about checking flowers and hurries off. Flowers in October, by a tree. Miss Marple's not buying it. She examines. The spot loose soil, recently disturbed, but no tools or plants. It's a practical tip. When someone's story doesn't match their actions, like claiming to garden with no shovel, dig deeper figuratively, for now. Miss Marple marks the spot in her mind. She's not one to grab a spade, but she'll come back when no one's watching, as she leaves. She notices a shadow move behind the church walls. Someone's watching. It's too quick to identify, but the feeling of being followed lingers. Miss Marple thinks of the letter's words. Trust no shadow, for it moves before the light. Is the shadow a person, like the stranger Tom spoke to, or something less tangible, like a hidden motive? She recalls a case in St. Mary Mead, where a groundskeeper buried stolen jewels in a churchyard, thinking no one would look. Here, the disturbed earth and Lily's panic suggest something's hidden. Maybe not jewels, but answers. Miss Marple's patient, though. She knows rushing spooks the truth away. Back at Clara's, Miss Marple sips tea and reflects the church. Visit gave her 3 clues. Harrow's dodgy ledger. Chapter 5. Behind Grayson's locked gates, the churchyard secrets have sharpened Miss Marple's focus. With its disturbed earth and the vicar's dodgy ledger pointing to a betrayal rooted deep in Netherby's heart. The cryptic letters warning about shadows and the photograph linking Grayson to Lily keeps circling in her mind. Now, Miss Marple turns her attention to the imposing manner of Mr. Grayson, the village's wealthiest and most elusive figure. In this chapter, we follow her to the edge of his estate, where locked gates and guarded conversations reveal new layers of the mystery. What's hiding behind those iron bars, and why does Grayson's name keep surfacing? Let's tread carefully with Miss Marple as she inches closer to the truth. It's a brisk afternoon, and Miss Marple walks the winding path to Grayson Manor, her sensible shoes crunching on gravel. The estate looms at Netherby's edge. It's high, stone walls topped with ivy and iron spikes. The gates, usually ajar to welcome tenants, are firmly locked, a heavy chain glinting in the sunlight. Miss Marple pauses, noting the fresh scratches on the lock. Someone's tried to force it, or maybe they succeeded. In any mystery, physical details like these are gold. Think of a scratched door at your office or a tampered lock at home. It's a sign someone's been where they shouldn't. Miss Marple's not one to climb fences, but she's keen to know what's worth locking away. She rings the bell, and after a long wait, a groundskeeper appears. Mr. Dobbs, a wiry man with a guarded look. He says Mr. Grayson's indisposed and not seeing visitors. Miss Marple smiles, mentioning she's just dropping by to return a scarf. Clara found a fib that's harmless but clever. Dobbs hesitates, then lets her into the courtyard, warning her to stay put. The courtyard is grand, but neglected overgrown roses, cracked fountains, and a faint air of decay. Miss Marple's seen estates like this before, in cases where wealth hid desperation. For example, a lavish house with unpaid bills often points to financial trouble or secrets. Here, the manor state suggests Grayson's grip on Netherby might be slipping. While Dobbs fetches someone, Miss Marple observes. A window on the manor's second floor has a curtain twitch. Someone's watching. She also spots a pile of fresh dirt near a garden shed, not unlike the disturbed earth in the churchyard. Coincidence? Not likely. She recalls the letters, rose seal tied to Grayson's expensive paper, and the photo of him with a woman resembling Lily. Roses are everywhere here on the gates. In the garden, even carved into the manor's stonework. Symbols matter in mysteries. They're like breadcrumbs. If you notice a recurring motif in your own life, say a specific phrase someone keeps using, it's worth questioning why. A housekeeper, Mrs. Ellis, emerges, brisk and unsmiling. She takes the non-existent scarf with a curt nod and tries to usher Miss Marple out. But Miss Marple, ever chatty, asks about Grayson's health and the manor's history. Mrs. Ellis softens slightly, mentioning Grayson's been under strain since a land deal last year. She cuts herself off, but not before saying the deal. Involved promises not kept. Miss Marple's ears perk up. Promises and land deals echo the village meetings, whispers and Clara's hints about an old scandal. In real life, you'd pick up on this too. Someone stopping mid-sentence often means they've said more than they meant to. The trick is to keep them talking without pushing too hard. As Mrs. Ellis leads her back to the gate, Miss Marple notices a side path leading to a greenhouse, its glass panes fogged with grime. Through a crack, she glimpses boxes stacked inside not plants, but crates, the kind used for shipping. Odd for a greenhouse. She doesn't linger, but her mind's racing. Crates could mean anything: stolen goods, hidden documents, or something worse. She thinks of a case in St. Mary Mead, where a shed full of crates hid smuggled antiques. Here, the crates, the dirt, and Grayson's absence paint a picture, but it's still blurry. Miss Marple's patient, though. She knows rushing a mystery is like unraveling a sweater pull too hard, and you lose the thread. On her way out, Dobbs reappears, his eyes narrowing as he sees her glance at the greenhouse. He mutters about nosy visitors and locks the gate behind her with a clang. Miss Marple doesn't flinch. She's used to suspicion. Instead, she reflects on what she's learned. Grayson's under pressure. The manor's hiding something, and the rose symbol ties it all back to the letter. The scratched lock and crates suggest someone's moving things in secret, maybe the shadow the letter warned about. She also thinks of Lily. Chapter 6. The churchyard's buried truth. Grayson's manor, with its locked gates and hidden crates, has tightened the web of suspicion around Netherby. The rose seal, the disturbed earth, and whispers of broken promises point to a betrayal. That's more than just gossip. Now, Miss Marple returns to the churchyard. Drawn by the loose soil she spotted near the yew tree and Lily's nervous behaviour. In this chapter, we slip into the twilight shadows of St. Anne's Church, where a daring investigation uncovers a shocking discovery that shifts the mystery's course. What's buried in the churchyard, and how does it tie to the cryptic letters? Warning: let's follow Miss Marple as she digs figuratively, and maybe literally, into Netherby's darkest secret yet. The sun is dipping low, casting long shadows across Netherby's churchyard as Miss Marple approaches St. Anne's. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and fading roses, and the village is quiet, its residents tucked away for supper. Miss Marple, wrapped in her shawl, moves with purpose but caution, her eyes on the yew tree where she saw Lily brushing dirt from her hands. Twilight is her ally. It's when secrets feel safer to reveal. In any mystery, timing matters. Of catching a friend, sneaking a glance at a text, or spotting an odd car parked late at night. Miss Marple knows the churchyard holds answers, and she's here to find them before someone else covers them up. The yew tree stands ancient and gnarled, its roots twisting into the ground like old secrets. The patch of disturbed earth is still there, less obvious now, as if someone's tried to smooth it over. Miss Marple kneels, her gloved hands brushing the soil. It's loose, recently turned, and deeper than a gardener's work. She's no archaeologist, but she's practical. Graves and gardens don't look like this. Using a small trowel from her bag, Miss Marple's always prepared. She digs gently, just enough to see what's hidden. A few inches down, her trowel hits something harder wooden box, small but heavy, wrapped in oilcloth. Her heart quickens, but she stays calm. In your own life, finding something unexpected like a locked diary or a hidden note can shift everything. This box is that kind of find. Carefully, Miss Marple lifts it out. It's no bigger than a bread tin, with a simple latch but no lock. Inside, she finds papers, letters, receipts, and a folded map, all stamped with the rose seal she's come to know. The letters are old, some dated 10 years back, and mention a land deal between Grayson's family and the church. One, in hurried script, reads, "The debt must be paid, or the village falls." No signature, but the handwriting matches the cryptic letter. The map shows Netherby's fields, with a plot near the manor marked in red. Miss Marple's mind races land, debts, and roses again. She recalls a case in St. Mary Mead, where buried documents exposed a blackmail scheme. Here, the box feels like a time capsule of betrayal. As she examines the papers, a twig snaps behind her. She slips the box back into the hole and covers it, standing just as Tom, the blacksmith, emerges from the shadows. His face is grim, his hammer dangling at his side. "What are you doing, miss?" he asks, his voice low but sharp. Miss Marple, unruffled, says she's admiring the churchyard's peace. Tom's eyes narrow. He's not convinced, but he doesn't push. Instead, he mutters about folks meddling and stalks off. Miss Marple notes his boots, caked with fresh dirt. Was he watching her or checking the box himself? In mysteries, confrontations like this are tests. You'd do the same, stay, calm, deflect, and watch for tells like muddy boots or a too quick excuse. Back at Clara's, Miss Marple spreads the papers on the table, keeping one letter and the map to study later. The receipts show payments from Grayson to the church, labelled reparations, but they stop abruptly last year. The map's red-marked plot sits near the manor's greenhouse, where she saw those crates. Everything's connected: Grayson, the church, the land deal, and now this box. But why bury it? And why was Lily here? Miss Marple thinks of Lily's fear, her link to Grayson in that old photo. Is she protecting someone or hiding her own role? Miss Marple's seen scared young women before. Fear makes them run, but it also makes them slip up. To think like Miss Marple. Imagine finding a hidden stash in your own world, a box of old emails, a secret account. You'd ask, who hid it? Why now? The churchyard's box is a turning point, tying the letter's warning to Grayson's deals and the village's tension. But it's not the whole story. Tom's appearance raises questions. Was he guarding the box or planning to move it? And the vicar's ledger, with its missing funds, fits too neatly with these reparations. Miss Marple's patient, though she knows the truth is like knitting one stitch at a time. Before leaving, Miss Marple returns to the churchyard to rebury the box, ensuring it looks untouched. She's not ready to confront anyone, yet timing is everything. The letters, words, "Trust no shadow," feel sharper now. The shadow could be Tom, Grayson, or even Lily, moving before the light of truth. Miss Marple's closer, but the betrayal's heart is still buried deeper. The churchyard's box has cracked the mystery wide open, linking land, money, and secrets. Miss Marple's holding new pieces, but the puzzle's far from solved. Next, we'll follow her to a tense confrontation with Lily, where tears and truths start to spill. Chapter 7. Lily's Tears and Tangled Lies. The churchyard's buried box has deepened the mystery. Its papers tying Grayson's land deals to the church, and the cryptic letters ominous warning. Miss Marple's mind is buzzing with connections, roses, debts, and secrets hidden in plain sight. Now her focus shifts to Lily, the young baker's assistant whose nervous glances and hurried exits scream of fear, not guilt. In this chapter, we follow Miss Marple to a quiet corner of Netherby's bakery, where a heart-to-heart with Lily unveils tears, half-truths, and a revelation that twists the betrayal's roots deeper. What is Lily hiding, and how does it connect to the village's wounds? Let's sit with Miss Marple as she gently unravels a young woman's tangled lies. It's a grey morning, and the bakery smells of warm bread and sugar, a cosy contrast to Netherby's growing chill. Miss Marple steps inside, her umbrella dripping from a light drizzle. The shop is quiet, save for the clink of pans in the back. Lily's behind the counter, her apron dusted with flour, but her eyes are red, as if she's been crying. Miss Marple's seen this before. Fear and grief leave marks, like smudged makeup or trembling hands. In any mystery, emotional tells are as crucial as physical clues. Think of a friend who's suddenly distant or a co-worker who's jumpy. Those signs point to a story begging to be heard. Miss Marple orders a scone, her voice warm, and asks Lily how she's faring. The girl flinches, a clear sign she's on edge. Lily tries to brush it off, saying it's just a busy day, but Miss Marple's gentle persistence, honed from years of village chats, works its magic. She mentions the churchyard, casually, noting how peaceful it is at dusk. Lily's hands freeze mid-wipe on the counter, and her breath catches. Miss Marple doesn't push. She sips her tea, giving Lily space to crack. This is a trick you can use too when someone's hiding something. Stay calm, drop a hint, and let them fill the silence. Lily finally mutters, "I wasn't doing anything wrong there," her voice barely a whisper. Miss Marple raises an eyebrow but keeps her tone kind, asking what that means. The floodgates open just a little. Tears well in Lily's eyes, as she admits she was in the churchyard to check something for someone else. She won't say who, but her glance toward the window, toward Grayson's manor, speaks volumes. Miss Marple recalls the old photo of Grayson with a woman resembling Lily, maybe a relative. She asks about Lily's family, softly, like chatting with a niece. Lily says her mother worked for Grayson years ago, before she passed away. The connection clicks, but Miss Marple doesn't press yet. Instead, she steers the talk to the harvest fair, knowing it's a sore spot. Lily's voice cracks. She says the fair meant everything to her mother, a tradition tied to the village's heart. Its cancellation feels personal, like a betrayal of her family's memory. Miss Marple senses Lily's caught in something bigger. She asks if anyone's been pressuring her, maybe about the church or Grayson. Lily's tears spill over, and she whispers, "They said I had to keep quiet, or it'd ruin everything." Who's they? Lily clams up, shaking her head, but Miss Marple catches a name slip. Clara Hinshaw, her friend at the post office. That's new. The cryptic letter, found at Clara's, suddenly feels closer to the heart of this. Miss Marple thinks of a case in St. Mary Mead, where a young woman's silence hid a blackmailer's grip. Here, Lily's fear suggests someone's pulling her strings, but is it Grayson, Clara, or someone else? As Lily wipes her eyes, Miss Marple notices a small rose pendant on her necklace, identical to the seal on the letter and Grayson's manner. She doesn't comment, but files it away. Symbols like this are never random, they're threads in the mystery's fabric. In your own life, think of recurring signs, a logo, a phrase that keep popping up in odd places. They're clues to a bigger picture. Miss Marple offers Lily a handkerchief and a gentle word, saying fear makes secrets heavy, but sharing them lightens the load. Lily nods, but stays silent, her loyalty or fear holding her back. Miss Marple doesn't push further. She's planted a seed, and seeds need time to grow. Leaving the bakery, Miss Marple reflects on the encounter. Lily's not the betrayer. She's too scared, but she's a key. The rose pendant, her mother's tie to Grayson, and her mention of Clara all point to a web of promises and threats. The churchyard boxes, papers about land deals and debts fit here to Grayson's wealth. The church's funds, and now Lily's family history are tangled together. Miss Marple wonders if Clara's vague worries about Chapter 8, Clara's confession at midnight. Lily's tears and halting words have painted her as a pawn in Netherby's shadowy game, with the rose pendant and her mention of Clara tightening the mystery's threads. The buried box, Grayson manor, and the church's murky finances all point to a betrayal that's splitting the village apart. Now, Miss Marple turns to Clara Henshaw, her old friend and the postmistress, whose name keeps surfacing in uneasy whispers. In this chapter, we join Miss Marple for a late-night talk at the post office, where Clara's guarded demeanor cracks, revealing a confession that shifts the riddle's core. What has Clara been hiding, and how deep does her role go? Let's sit by the flickering lamp as Miss Marple peels back another layer of Netherby's secrets. It's just past 11, and Netherby is cloaked in silence, the only sound the soft patter of rain on the post office roof. Miss Marple sits across from Clara in the cramped back room, a single lamp casting long shadows. The air smells of wax and old letters, and Clara's hands fidget with a teacup, her usual warmth replaced by a taut nervousness. Miss Marple's seen this before. Friends who know too much often hide it behind small talk. In any mystery, timing a conversation is key. A late-night chat, when defenses are low, can unlock truths. Think of catching a sibling after a long day, or a colleague after hours' exhaustion loosens tongues. Miss Marple starts gently, asking about Clara's health, but her eyes are sharp, watching for cracks. Clara tries to keep things light, chatting about village gossip, but Miss Marple steers the talk to Lily. She mentions seeing her at the bakery, upset, and drops Clara's name casually, saying Lily seemed scared. Clara's cup rattles against its saucer, a tell as clear as a shout. Miss Marple's tactic is simple but effective. Mention a specific detail and watch the reaction. You can do this, to bring up a name or event and see who flinches. Clara's voice wavers as she says Lily's just young, always dramatic, but her eyes dart to a locked drawer in her desk. Miss Marple notes it, recalling the cryptic letter she found here, with its rose seal and warning about shadows. That drawer might hold more. Sensing Clara's unease, Miss Marple shifts to the churchyard, mentioning the yew tree's beauty in the dusk. Clara stiffens, her fingers twisting a handkerchief. Miss Marple doesn't mention the buried boxes, too clever for that, but she asks if Clara's noticed anything odd around the church. The question hits a nerve. Clara's face crumples, and she whispers, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Miss Marple leans forward, her voice soft but firm, urging Clara to share the weight of her secret. This is a classic move. Offer a safe space, like comforting a friend, and let them spill. Clara takes a shaky breath and begins. She confesses. She's been holding letters, not just the cryptic one, but others, all with the rose seal. They started arriving a year ago, addressed to no one, just left in the post office drop box. Each hinted at a debt Grayson owed the village, tied to a land deal from a decade back. Clara didn't send them on. She hid them, fearing they'd stir trouble. One letter, she admits, mentioned Lily's mother, who worked for Grayson and died. Under strange circumstances, Clara's voice breaks. She knew Lily's mother and felt protective of Lily, so she kept quiet. But someone knew she was hiding the letters and pressured her to stay silent, threatening to expose her role. Who, Clara won't say, but her fear is real. Miss Marple's mind hums. The letters link Grayson, Lily's mother, and the churchyard box's papers about land and debts. Clara's confession explains her jumpiness, but raises new questions. Who's threatening her? And why hide the letters instead of destroying them? Miss Marple recalls a case in St. Mary Mead, where a postman hoarded incriminating letters out of guilt, hoping to right a wrong later. Here, Clara's motives seem mixed: fear, loyalty to Lily, and maybe shame. Miss Marple asks to see the drawer. Clara hesitates, then unlocks it, revealing a bundle of letters, all with the rose seal and a small notebook. The notebook lists dates and sums, like a ledger, with initials T, L, H, Tom, Lily, Harrow. It's not proof, but it's a map. As Clara speaks, Miss Marple notices a shadow pass the window. Someone's outside. She doesn't react, but her pulse quickens. The letter's warning, "Trust no shadow," feels alive now. Was it Tom checking on Clara, or someone else? Miss Marple keeps her tone steady, thanking Clara for her honesty and urging her to rest. She takes one letter, promising to keep Clara's secret for now. Outside, the rain has stopped, but the night feels heavier. Miss Marple thinks of Lily's pendant, the manor's crates, and the church's ledger. Clara's confession ties them together. But the puppeteer, the one threatening silences, still hidden. To think like Miss Marple. Imagine a friend confessing half a truth, secret loan, a hidden grudge. You'd notice what they don't. Say, like Clara, avoiding her blackmailer's name. Miss Marple's strength is her empathy. She sees Clara's fear as a clue, not just a burden. The notebook's initials and the letter's warnings point to a conspiracy, but the why? Greed, revenge, or something deeper remains murky. Clara's role is clearer, but she's not the betrayer, just a piece of the puzzle. Clara's midnight confession has lit a new path, revealing a trail of hidden letters and a village debt that won't stay buried. Miss Marple's closer to unmasking. The shadow, but dangers creeping nearer. Next, we'll follow her to a risky visit with Tom the blacksmith, where his temper and secrets collide. Stay with us as the riddle's truth edges into view. Chapter 9. Tom's temper and the forge's secrets. Clara's midnight confession has peeled back another layer of Netherby's mystery. Her hidden letters and notebook tying Grayson, Lily, and the church to a decade-old debt and a shadowy threat. The rose seal, the buried box, and the village's fractured trust all point to a betrayal that's closing in. Now, Miss Marple turns to Tom, the blacksmith, whose muddy boots in the churchyard and gruff demeanour at the village meeting mark him as a key player. In this chapter, we follow her to the smoky heat of Tom's forge, where a tense confrontation sparks revelations about his role and the village's wounds. What's Tom hiding, and how does his temper fit into the riddle? Let's step into the forge's glow as Miss Marple faces a man on the edge. It's a chilly dawn, and the village is just stirring as Miss Marple walks to Tom's forge, nestled at Netherby's outskirts. The air carries the sharp temps of coal and metal, and the rhythmic clang of hammer on anvil echoes through the mist. Tom's forge is a sturdy stone building, its windows smudged with soot, a place where hard work hides hard truths. Miss Marple seen men like Tom before, gruff, loyal, but quick to anger when cornered. In any mystery, a person's temperament is a clue. Think of a co-worker who snaps under pressure, or a neighbor who bristles at questions. Anger often guards secrets. Miss Marple's plan is simple. Ask just enough to rattle Tom, but not so much he shuts down. Tom's at his anvil, shaping a horseshoe, his broad shoulders tense. His face, lined and weathered, darkens when he sees Miss Marple. Not a good time, he grumbles, but she smiles, holding up a bent garden trowel and asking for a quick fix. It's a pretext, but a good one. People open up when you give them something to do. As Tom works, Miss Marple chats about the village, mentioning the churchyard's peace and the meeting's heated talk of debts. Tom's hammer pauses, just for a second, and his jaw tightens. That pause is a tell, like someone hesitating when asked about a missing file or a late-night errand. Miss Marple's learned to trust these moments there where secrets hide. She presses gently, asking if he's noticed anything odd around the church. Tom's eyes flick to her, then back to the anvil. Nothing worth talking about, he says, too quickly. Miss Marple doesn't push directly. Instead, she mentions Lily, saying she seemed upset at the bakery. Tom's hammer slams down, sparking. The metal? Leave the girl alone, he snaps. She's got enough trouble. His protectiveness catches Miss Marple's attention. Tom's not just angry, he's worried. In your own life, notice when someone defends another too often means they share a secret. Miss Marple files this away, linking it to Lily's fear and Clara's letters. Sensing an opening, Miss Marple asks about Grayson's land deal, tying it to the village's tension. Tom's face reddens, and he tosses the horseshoe into a bucket. With a hiss, Grayson's a leech, he growls. Took land that wasn't his to take. He stops short, as if he's said too much, but Miss Marple's quiet nod keeps him talking. Tom reveals that 10 years ago, Grayson bought up village fields, promising jobs and prosperity. Instead, he raised rents, squeezing families like Lily's. Tom's own forge sits on lease land, and Grayson's been pressing for payment. Miss Marple recalls the churchyard box's papers receipts for reparations from Grayson to the church. Was that money meant for the village, siphoned off instead? Tom's anger is a clue, but Miss Marple notices something else. A small crate in the forge's corner, half covered by a tarp with a faint rose seal scratched into the wood. It matches the crates she saw in Grayson's greenhouse. She doesn't mention it, but asks if Tom's had any odd deliveries. His eyes narrow, and he says, "Just tools, nothing special." But his hands clench, a sign he's lying. Miss Marple thinks of a case in St. Mary Mead, where a carpenter hid stolen goods in his workshop, thinking no one would look. Here, the crate suggests Tom's more involved than he lets on, maybe moving something for Grayson or against him. As she prepares to leave, Miss Marple spots a muddy shovel leaning against the wall, its blade caked with the same dark soil as the churchyard's. Tom follows her gaze and steps in front of it, his voice gruff. "You ask too many questions." Miss B smiles, unruffled, thanking him for the trowel. Outside, she reflects Tom's temper, his protectiveness over Lily, and the crate tie him to the churchyard and Grayson's deals. The notebook from Clara's drawer with the initial T now feels heavier. Is Tom a victim of Grayson's greed, a conspirator, or both? And why protect Lily? Miss Marple wonders if he knew her mother. Tying back to Clara's confession about her strange death, to think like Miss Marple. Imagine confronting someone volatile in your own world, a friend who's defensive or a colleague who's cagey about a project. Watch their body language, their sudden silences, or what they try to hide, like Tom's shovel. Miss Marple's gift is reading people, not just facts. Tom's anger points to a personal stake, maybe loyalty to Lily or resentment toward Grayson. The crate and shovel suggest he's part of the shadow from the cryptic letter, but whether he's its source or its victim is unclear. The riddles, pieces land, debts, roses are falling into place, but the heart of the betrayal remains just out of reach. Tom's forge has heated up the mystery, with his temper and hidden crate revealing a man caught in Netherby's web. Miss Marple's closing in, but the truth is still slippery. Next, we'll follow her to a final showdown at the village square, where secrets spill and the betrayer's face comes into focus. Stay tuned as the riddle reaches its peak. Chapter 10. The village square. Whodunit's fiery temper and the hidden crate in his forge have tightened the noose around Netherby's mystery, linking him to the churchyard's buried secrets, Grayson's land deals, and Lily's fear. Clara's letters, the rose seal, and the church's missing funds all point to a betrayal that's fractured the village's heart. Now, Miss Marple gathers the pieces for a final reckoning in Netherby's village square, where truths unravel and the betrayer's face is revealed. In this chapter, we join her as she orchestrates a tense confrontation, pulling together every clue to solve the riddle. Who betrayed Netherby, and can its wounds ever heal? Let's stand in the square as Miss Marple brings the mystery to its gripping close. It's a crisp evening, and the village square is bathed in the golden glow of lanterns, hastily lit for an impromptu gathering. Miss Marple has quietly spread word through Clara, asking key villagers Tom, Lily, Mr. Harrow, and others to meet and clear the air about the harvest fair's cancellation. The square, usually alive with laughter, feels like a stage, set for judgment. Miss Marple stands near the old well, her shawl tight against the chill, her knitting bag at her side. In mysteries, the final act often needs a crowd tension, draws out truth. Think of a family meeting where secrets spill or a team huddle where grudges surface. Miss Marple's banking on that now, her calm presence a trap for the guilty. The villagers arrive, their faces a mix of curiosity and dread. Tom looms near the edge, his arms crossed, eyes wary. Lily hovers by Clara, her rose pendant glinting. Mr. Harrow fidgets with his collar, and Mrs. Pike mutters about wasted time. Grayson's absence is glaring. His manor gates are still locked, but Miss Marple expected that. She begins, her voice gentle but firm, thanking everyone for coming. She mentions the fair, the church funds, and the rumors of betrayal, watching their reactions. Tom shifts his weight. Lily bites her lip. Harrow looks at his shoes. These are told small signs of guilt or fear you'd notice in a tense meeting, like a friend avoiding eye contact or a colleague clutching their phone. Miss Marple pulls the cryptic letter from her bag. its rose seal catching the lantern lights. This was sent to warn us, she says, about a shadow moving before the light. The crowd stirs. She recounts the clues. The churchyard's buried box with papers about Grayson's land deal, Clara's hidden letters, the manor's crates, and Tom's muddy shovel. She doesn't accuse Yet, but lays out the story like a quilt, each patch a fact. The land deal, she explains, was Grayson's promise to share profits from village fields. But he kept the money, leaving families like Lily's struggling. The church funds, meant as reparations, were diverted, leaving the fair cancelled and trust broken. The crowd murmurs, anger rising. Then Miss Marple turns to Lily. "You knew about the box, didn't you?" she asks softly. Lily's eyes fill with tears, but she nods. She admits her mother, Grayson's former housekeeper, discovered his fraud years ago and wrote the first rose-sealed letters to expose him. She died before she could act. Clara hinted it wasn't natural. Lily, young and scared, buried the box to protect her mother's proof, hoping to finish her fight. But someone found out, someone who threatened her to stay silent. Miss Marple's eyes shift to Tom, who flinches. "You helped her, Tom," she says, "but you also moved crates. For Grayson, didn't you?" Tom's face crumples. He admits he took payment to store Grayson's good stolen church artifacts, meant to be sold to cover his debts. The crowd gasps, but Miss Marple's not done. She turns to Mr. Harrow, whose ledger hid the missing funds. "You knew, too," she says. Harrow breaks, confessing he funneled church money to Grayson, believing it would save the village from his foreclosure threats. The betrayer, Miss Marple reveals, isn't one person, it's a chain of choices, fueled by Grayson's greed and everyone's silence. The shadow was Grayson, moving before the village could see his lies, but also the fear that kept Clara, Tom, and Harrow quiet. Lily, though, was no shadow, she was the light, trying to right her mother's wrong. As the truth settles, a figure steps into the square. Grayson himself, pale and haggard. He'd been listening, summoned by a note Miss Marple sent earlier. He doesn't deny it. His debts drove him to cheat the village, but he claims he meant to repay. The crowd's fury rises, but Miss Marple raises a hand. "Anger won't heal Netherby," she says. She suggests Grayson return the artifacts and renegotiate the land deal fairly. It's not justice, but it's a start. Lily steps forward, her voice steady now, demanding the fair be restored in her mother's name. The crowd agrees, a spark of unity flickering. Miss Marple steps back, her work done. The riddle solved not with a single villain, but with a village forced to face its flaws. In your own life, think of how secrets fester when no one speaks, whether it's a family feud or a workplace cover-up. Miss Marple's gift is showing that truth, not blame, mends broken trust. As the crowd disperses, she picks up her knitting, satisfied but somber. Netherby's heart may heal, but scars remain. The village square has bared its secrets, and Miss Marple's unravelled the betrayal that bound Netherby's pain. If you've loved solving this riddle with us, hit that like button and subscribe. For more mysteries, comment below. Who did you suspect most? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next tale.